Tell me a little bit. When I was thinking about being a producer, it made me think of this movie Wag the Dog a few years ago with Dustin Hoffman, among others, and he played a Hollywood producer, and he complained. He said nobody knows what producers do, and so I think that we all have that sense of what a director is because we see that enacted on the screen even as well. But what does that mean?
A producer produces, John.
You're
a writing teacher.
More.
It's the same. No, the reason it's confusing is because there are different kinds of producers. There are people that do what we do, which is very creatively hands-on, usually from the beginning of a project all the way through to the end. From first idea, first meetings, finding the writer, building it up from scratch, all the way through the marketing of the movie, how the poster's going to appear. You're with it longer than anybody. And that's why the Best Picture Oscar goes to the producer. There's a separate award for Best Director. Best Picture goes to the producer. But there are many producers that amass projects and are known for their muscle tactics and their relationships with actors. And I mean, this is one of the reasons that Hollywood has so many outsized egos, is that to fill in the gap where they lack their creative spark, they build up these other skills, which are important skills, but they're businessy skills, and their networking skills, and their relentlessness skills. And they can be a little slightly darker skills, and so that's why there are a lot of people that you really wouldn't want to spend lunch with, let alone build a relationship with, work 2 years with. A lot of producers that are really tough to be around, but they get movies made. And if we went through a list of the movies that came out this year, I guarantee you that probably 60-70% of the movies that were produced this year were produced by those kind of producers, and the rest by people that are hands-on creatively, wall to wall.
So nice guys finish last.
I don't know if they finish last, but I think you get a thinner margin, a smaller bullseye, and also I think it just hurts more. If you really care about something, this is true for anybody about anything. If you really care about the life and death of a project, and you're working on 5 things, you live and die with everyone. If you have 27 projects set up at all the studios, and you really don't go to the set of too many, and you just want your name in Variety, then it hurts less because this one didn't work out, but there are 26 other ones. So there's a different emotional life to it. It's one of those jobs that has extreme highs and then perpetual disappointment. And in fact, just to segue a little bit into writing, I know we'll talk about that later, but I try to explain to people, especially people that are starting out, that if you do want to pursue a life of writing or a life in the movies, that I can guarantee you that 98% of your day and your life will be hearing no. And it doesn't change from when you're starting out and no one will hire you to when you're working and you're working on many, many things. Your day is still 95 to 98% no. It's just different people telling you no, but it's predominantly no. So I would say that the fundamental skill needed for sticking around in movies or entertainment or whatever is resiliency. That's without that, really, if you don't have that as one of your general skills in life, you shouldn't really try for it because you wind up just battered and beat up, and you sort of come home quickly, as opposed to going in and saying, you can shoot me with 10,000 arrows, but I'm walking on.
Todd, I'm gonna have us back up for a minute here. I mean, the other question besides figuratively, excuse me. Okay. Besides the question of what does a producer do, I mean, one of the questions people might wonder is how do you become, how did you get to that point? I mean, because it doesn't seem like there's, what is the career path that led you to that point to be a producer of a movie like that?
Well, for me, it was just the nature of the business, because as a screenwriter, as a working screenwriter, you are up against the facts that only 10% of scripts that you're either hired to do or scripts that sell become movies. So there's a 90% attrition rate. So I was making a living for 10 or 11 years as a screenwriter with nothing out in the marketplace, which is like pouring words down a hole. I mean, I had a career based on my reputation with about 30 people on the planet. You know, the sort of executives in charge in Hollywood. Very small and very, very disenchanting to write things that you really love, that your dad and your sister and everybody that you love is like, this is amazing, why is this not a movie? and you got paid to do it too. It's not just us saying that, somebody else thinks it's amazing, why is it not a movie? It's a good question, but those things happen. So out of that, I decided to get into producing because I wanted to put more boats in the water, or as my dad and I always talk about, you know, casting your bread upon the water. So more loaves to get soggy out there, hoping that, you know, one of the loaves would come chugging back as a fully baked, beautiful loaf. And so, but
how's that for figurative language?
Elf, you know, and Elf was maybe just even like a piece of sliced bread that came back as a full loaf, because you just don't know. It's not the things that you care the most about. And the only thing I can go back to and rely on is all things lead together for good to those that love God. Not all good things happen to those that love God. So living under that knowledge and that faith, that buoys one up while you're taking all these no's again and again. And when you're waiting by the edge of the water for the bread to come back, and then all of a sudden the water's gone too. You're like, am I at the right place? Is this where I sent the bread out? Because the bread never comes back where you sent it out. It comes back on the other side of the archipelago. And then you got to hike barefoot over some giant coral reef. So by the time you get to it, you can't even hold the bread because your hands are so sore. So. I think I answered the question.
Thanks. So let's move forward a little bit. So you finished college and you're stepping out into your career. And what were the early years like for you? And again, we have a lot of students who are just about to graduate, and I talk with a lot of students about what's going to happen next. I'm curious what things were like for you.
I remember the Wilcox Station post office. That's what I remember. The first screenplay I ever mailed to anybody who might actually read it when I was 22. And I put it in this nice thick binder thinking, wow, that looks professional. Not knowing that the guarantee that something's not professional is if it comes in a nice thick binder. So I mailed it off. I can still see it. That station is in L.A. I was living in L.A. and I was sort of shaking and thinking, this is it. This is my scratcher card. I'm making a lot of lottery references. The key to life, kids, is play the lottery. Because if you don't win, it helps senior citizens. So I remember sending that off, and those moments stay with you for the rest of your life. But again, the beginning was no, 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 no. Definitely not. And then I got one yes, and that's what it takes to get one yes. I had a friend who was working at a small production company, someone that I'd gone to Wheaton with, and he found out that they were in television a little bit, but that they were interested in getting into film. And so without telling me, he gave a script that I had written in my early years out in L.A. to the head of the writing group at that company, and I got a call. And I remember, again, these things, they sear themselves in your memory. Security Pacific Bank, which is not even a bank anymore. There are a lot of banks that aren't banks anymore, actually. But I went to the ATM. We had ATMs in 1989. Believe it or not. And I took some money out of the banking, the ATM, and out came the receipt. And I still have this receipt somewhere, $252.38. And I took it out, and it was as if the scales had fallen from Paul's eyes. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm broke. I have to get a job. I can't be a guy who's trying to write. I can't be believed in by my family. I failed. And that afternoon, I got a telephone call from this gentleman, and he said, "Listen, I read your screenplay. Would you be willing to come in and meet?" And I said, play it cool. I said, sure, I'd love to come in and meet. And he said, what's your schedule like? It's 1:45, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, in my head, I'm going, play cool, be cool, be cool. And I said, how about this afternoon? And I'm sure at 23 or whatever age I was, I probably sounded like, how about this afternoon? Oh, my goodness. So he laughed, and he was like, no, this afternoon's not going to work. But I can see you tomorrow. So I went in, and I met with the gentleman, and I think the most encouraging thing he said was, right away, he said, you're good at this. You can do this. Because he recognized I was really young. He was in his 40s. And he'd been doing it for a while, and that was really encouraging, that kind of encouragement. And they hired me to write a little movie that nothing ever became of, but that was the beginning of the ride.